Ayun lang, amen. So may tatlong ako hindi natawag. Sino yung tatlong hindi ko natawag? Yung tatlong hindi ko natawag, i-fill out nyo yung contact information sheet. Mamaya ibibigay ko ulit yung link sa Messenger. So, ayun. Wait, sino yung tatlong hindi ko natawag? Marinig ko man lamang yung boses nila. Nandito ba sila? Hello? Wala? Okay. So, walang gumalaw ng baso. Ibig sabihin wala sila dito. Okay, start na tayo sa lecture. Discussion natin. So, again, this afternoon, we are just going to answer your frequently asked questions. So, let's start with lecture 1. Ito yung mga frequently asked questions mo. Actually, kinompile ko na sila. So, most of these questions actually tungkol sa structure ng DNA. So, nucleotide, ayun, structure, pyrimidines and purines. Also, yung 5' to 3' reading, kung paano raw. And um, yung base pairing ng AT or nung mga base pairing ng nucleotide bases mo. And ano pa ba? Yung nandito. You most probably, most of these are about your DNA structure. So, let's take a look. So, i-review ulit natin na yung DNA structure mo. Again, composed of three components, right? So, meron kang phosphate group, meron kang sugar, and meron kang base. So, yung tanong daw dito, parang, bakit natin, or ma'am, are we going to elaborate more on the nucleotide and its three components po? Actually, kaya natin to discuss na structure of your nucleotide para malaman nyo kung ano yung principle behind DNA replication, DNA extraction din. Kasi 'di ba sa DNA extraction natin, sabi natin DNA is negatively charged, right? So ano yung bakit negatively charged yung DNA? Dahil sa phosphate group. So dahil nalaman mo na yung structure ng nucleotides mo and nakita mo na negative yung phosphate group, therefore malalaman mo rin na negative rin yung DNA mo. And also this structure din na to, siya rin yung parang basehan mo kung paano yung DNA replication mo. So, kung paano nangyayari yung DNA replication mo. So, yung nalilito daw sila mostly ay kung paano nag-a-add sa 3' end yung nucleotides mo. 'Di ba sabi natin, DNA nucleotides only grows from the 5' to the 3' end. 'Di ba? Yun yung sabi natin. So, bakit ba ganun? So, paano siya nag-grow lang from 5' to 3' end? So, nalilito daw sila doon. And yung sagot kasi, sa 3' end mo, nagkakaroon ka ng nucleophilic attack. Dito siya, mas makikita. So, dito sa 3' end mo, meron kang hydroxyl group again. And this hydroxyl group, it acts upon your DNTP. Magkakaroon ka dito ng nucleophilic attack. Right? 'Di ba? So, magkakaroon ka dito ng nucleophilic attack. Therefore, magpo-proceed siya na mag-add sa 3' end mo. Bakit? Kasi favorable tong reaction na to dahil may release of energy. And merong nagtanong, bakit favorable ang chemical reaction na may release of energy? Kasi, i-remember nyo sa chemistry class nyo na, diniscuss nyo na sa chemistry class nyo na lahat ng ang energy, 'di ba? It is not created nor destroyed. And ang energy, mafo-form siya into another type of energy, right? So in this case, in the case of DNA strand growth, yung form ng energy mo ay yung triphosphates mo dito. Or actually, meron ka ditong triphosphates, meron yung energy, and yung energy na nandito, ginamit siya nung hydroxyl group mo dito, inattack niya yung phosphate groups mo dito para isa lang yung matira, and then yung ibang phosphate group na-release sila, and this is considered as energy. So, kaya favorable tong reaction na to. And sa 5' end kasi, wala kang hydroxyl group na pwede mag-attack doon sa DNTPs mo. Kaya, ayun. Kaya yung DNA mo, again, nag-grow lang siya sa direction ng 5' to 3' end. Also, yung tanong pa ay yung bakit daw yung adenine and thymine, dalawa lang yung hydrogen bonds, and yung guanine and cytosine, tatlo yung hydrogen bonds. Because again, if you look at the structure, if you look at each of these structure, dito sa adenine, dito lang naman pwede magkaroon ng hydrogen bonds. Only two sites in both your adenine and thymine, pwede ka magkaroon ng hydrogen bonds. Nakikita nyo ba? 'Di ba? But in your guanine and cytosine, meron kang tatlong sites na pwede magkaroon ng hydrogen bonds. Kaya specific na yung adenine, magbabond lang siya sa thymine kasi dalawa lang yung hydrogen bonds na mapo-form nila. And yung guanine and cytosine mo, sila lang din yung magbabind to each other dahil tatlo lang yung hydrogen bonds, ay tatlo yung hydrogen bonds na mapo-form nila. Nagets niyo ba or medyo malabo pa? Kaya bakit adenine and thymine lang yung nagbabind and guanine and cytosine lang yung nagbabind? So kung may questions pa kayo, raise your hands now. So ayun. And ayun. So bakit may yung isa rin na tanong dito actually, diba yung two hydrogen bonds? As clarification, genome is general term for chromosome and the so-called genome for humans. Actually, tama tong statement niya. So yung general term for the all of the collection of your hereditary information is the genome. And sa humans, chromosomes yun. But in bacteria, yung circular DNA lang yung genome nila kasi yun lang rin yung nagko-contain ng hereditary information nila. And also, may tinanong din kung bakit, again, helical yung structure ng DNA. Ano yung importance? So again, yung importance ng helical structure ng DNA ay para sa, may nakakaalam ba? Bakit helical yung structure ng DNA?
Para mag-fit po ng cells.
Para, wait, come again.
Para mag-fit po sa loob ng cells.
Tama. So tama si Ronnie. Kaya helical yung structure ng DNA ay para mag-fit siya sa cells. Kasi sobrang haba niya, di ba? So kapag stretch mo lang yung DNA mo, hindi siya magkakasya sa loob ng cell. So, important yung helical structure ng DNA para magkasya siya sa loob ng cell. And also, dito rin, yung illustration ng from DNA to, from the nucleus to DNA. So, kailangan din daw dito ng clarification and also kailangan din ng clarification in your nucleosome. So, dito muna tayo. So, yung tinatanong niya dito kung ano ulit yung connection from here to here. So, i-state ko na lang ulit. So, in your cell, the part where the hereditary information is contained is inside your nucleus. Okay? And inside your nucleus, you have your chromosomes. And the collection of your chromosomes is your genome. So, each of these chromosomes, it contains all of your DNA. And in your DNA, to package your DNA, dahil sobrang haba niya, kailangan mo ng packaging. So, the DNA is packaged through your histones. So, your histones are, your nucleosome is, paano mo mapapackage yung DNA mo. And in your nucleosome is composed of your histone proteins and your DNA na na-package mo. And, actually, may na-skip dito. So, ito rin, kapag meron kang presence of non-histone proteins dito, yung tawag doon ay chromatin. And as you look closer into it, pag tingnan mo yung DNA, meron kang site ng specific hereditary information called your genes. And when you take a closer look at the structure of the DNA, meron kang building blocks called your nucleotides. And your nucleotides are composed of different base pairs na guanine, cytosine, adenine, and thymine. So, ayun yung connection from your cell to your DNA. So, meron pa bang tanong dito? Meron pa bang nalilito dito? Wala naman. So, ito yung tinatawag natin na chromatin. So, hindi siya pinakita dito. Pero actually, chromatin to. And yung chromatin, made up ulit siya ng DNA mo wrapped around your histone proteins and your non-histone. Merong nakabind dyan na non-histone proteins. And yung tanong specifically, ano daw yung parang function ng non-histone protein? So, hindi ko masyadong inelaborate yung function ng non-histone proteins, but actually, they have a function on gene control. So, itong non-histone proteins mo, since proteins sila na nakabind sa DNA, they actually control kung aling parts ng DNA mo yung ma-open. And, i-discuss natin actually ito sa lecture 5, yung gene control. Itong non-histone proteins mo, again, they control which parts of your proteins can be open and transcribed into RNA. So, yun yung function ng non-histone proteins mo. And yung term, again, for the DNA wrapped around histones na merong kasamang non-histone proteins ay yung chromatin. Ayun. So, ito pa, may tanong pa. The one example with one gene is equals to one protein. Tinanong din yung intragenic mutation, gene duplication, and DNA segment shuffling, and also yung horizontal transfer. And tinanong din if why all mutations are beneficial. So, isa-isahin natin. So, yung one gene is equals to one protein. Actually, isa siyang universally accepted na theory na for one gene, meron kang magagawang isang protein for eukaryotes. But, again, in your bacteria, ano yung napag-aralan nyo sa translation and transcription? Ano yung nangyayari sa bacteria? Meron bang nakakaalala? So again, review tong discussion natin. So para ma-review na kayo sa exam 1. Meron bang nakakaalala? So, kung walang nakakaalala, i-search nyo ano yung difference ng one gene to one kung actually ilan yung napoproduce na protein for one gene in bacteria. So, sa eukaryotes, actually, generally accepted na for one gene, meron kang one protein na nagagawa. But then, naaral natin sa transcription and translation natin na meron tinatawag na alternative splicing, di ba? And parang siya yung nagke-question doon sa one gene to one protein hypothesis. Kasi in alternative splicing, one mRNA or one gene can produce different types of mRNA. Right? Diba? Yun yung sa alternative splicing. And in turn, those different mRNAs, they produce different kinds of proteins. But then, actually, yung different kinds of proteins na yun, essentially, similar lang rin naman yung function nila. So, parang halos same lang rin na for one gene, gagawa ka ng isang type ng protein. Pero yung type ng protein na yon, merong variations. Nagigets niyo ba yung sinasabi ko? Parang merong variations yung protein na yon. Gets niyo ba yung sinasabi ko? Di ba one gene is equal to one protein? So for one gene, gagawa ka ng one protein. But then in alternative splicing, sinabi doon na pwede kang gumawa ng different types of mRNA. So therefore, yung isang type ng protein na yon, meron kang variations na pwedeng magawa. So, yun yung sa eukaryotes. And i-search nyo again sa lecture natin kung ano yung transcription and translation sa prokaryotes. Kung ilang protein ang nagagawa sa isang gene. Ano yung difference nila sa eukaryotes. Ayun. And also, i-discuss ulit natin to. So, ito yung mechanisms na nagagawa para magkaroon ng genetic variation. So, first is your intragenic mutation. And in your intragenic mutation, meron kang isang mutation dito. Minsan, isang nucleotide base lang. So, tinatawag yun na SNPs, if you remember. Single nucleotide polymorphisms. And yung single nucleotide polymorphisms, actually, lahat tayo meron nun. So, isa siyang mutation, pero lahat tayo meron nun. And and hindi siya harmful, beneficial siya actually. So, yung SNPs na yon, siya yung parang yung difference natin sa isa't isa. So, for example, meron kang base na adenine, pero sa akin, cytosine. Pero halos the same lang rin naman yung magiging function ng protein natin. And makikita natin kung bakit yun, or paano yun nangyayari mamaya-maya sa codons. So, sa genetic code. And, basta dito muna tayo. So, next ay yung gene duplication. And again, in your gene duplication, ano yung meron? Anong meron sa gene duplication? Anong nag-give rise ng gene duplication? Meron bang nakakaalam? Hello? Ano yung nasa gene duplication again? Recall nyo. Tawagin ko na lang si Nicole. Ano yung nasa gene duplication?
Sorry po, ma'am, di ko po natandaan.
Okay lang. So, yung sa gene duplication, yung nag-give rise sa gene duplication ay yung different gene families. So, sa gene duplication, again, i-remember nyo na yung nasa gene duplication, yung nag-give rise niya ay different gene families. And yung example natin dito ay yung globin genes, di ba? Yung sa blood. Kasi sa hemoglobin, meron kang alpha and beta globin. Actually, halos same lang rin yung function nila, di ba? Nagbe-make up sila ng hemoglobin. But then, different genes yung ginagamit para magawa sila. Pero, nasa isang gene family lang sila, which is called your globin gene. So, ayun. And, next is your DNA segment shuffling. So, in your DNA segment shuffling, ang nangyayari, nagsha-shuffle lang naman yung DNA segments mo. And dahil nag-shuffle yung DNA segments mo, magkaiba na dito yung sequences and therefore, maiiba na rin yung ma-code niya. 'Di ba? Kasi iba naman yung DNA sequences niya, iba naman yung makokode niya. And another one is your horizontal transfer. So in horizontal transfer, one organism, for example, organism A, came into contact siya with organism B. Tapos, si organism B, bigla niyang nakuha yung isang part ng genetic information ng organism A. And nagkakos rin to ng variations sa organism, especially in bacteria, di ba? Remember? And yung example natin ay yung beta-lactamase gene. And nagkakos siya ng variation kasi, tingnan nyo, dati, wala namang gene na red yung organism B. Pero ngayon, merong variation ng organism B na merong gene na red. Di ba? Nag-get nyo ba yun? So, ayun. So, proceed na tayo. So, in lecture 2 naman, so ito yung questions. Wow, PCR. So, ang daming questions actually tungkol sa PCR. And, yung PCR, get ko kung bakit hindi na siya na masyadong na-get kasi hindi ko rin naman siya in-elaborate. And kasi, yung PCR, i-discuss natin siya sa laboratory. Pinakita ko lang siya sa lecture for example ng isang lab technique na yung principle behind it is DNA replication. So, PCR is, again, ano nga ulit yung PCR, Ronnie?
Yung polymerase chain reaction po, siya po yung gold standard sa molecular diagnosis. Kasi po, sobrang specific and sensitive na.
Tama. So, ayun. Yun yung PCR. So, di ko na rin siya masyadong i-discuss kasi feeling ko alam niyo naman na yung PCR. Pero, yun lang naman yung important yung malaman doon. Yung PCR, gold standard siya. And what happens is that meron kang tatlong stages. Itong denaturating, annealing, and extending. So, in the denaturating stage, yung double-stranded DNA mo nahihiwalay. Denaturation. Ibig sabihin na denaturate yung DNA mo. Nahihiwalay yung dalawang strand. Tapos, kapag nahiwalay na yung dalawang DNA strand mo, each of these strands can now proceed to the annealing stage. And sa annealing stage mo, dito na mag-a-act yung primers. And again, kailangan ng primers kasi kailangan ng starting point kung saan mag-start yung synthesis mo dito. 'Di ba? And also, kailangan mo ng specific na primers mo para ma-target yung specific sequences mo na gusto mong i-amplify. Because in PCR, we want to amplify that specific gene na target natin. So for example, in yung pinaka nako-curious kayo, yung sa SARS-CoV-2, 'di ba? Yung sa SARS-CoV-2 actually, yung gene na tina-target doon ay yung N gene. Yung N gene na yon sa structure siya ng coronavirus. So merong gene doon sa coronavirus na tawag N gene. Yung N gene responsible siya sa structure ng coronavirus and yun yung tina-target sa SARS-CoV-2. And kailangan mo ng primer na magta-target doon sa gene na yon. So for example, ito N gene. And yung primer mo specific doon sa N gene. And once na mag-bind na yung primer mo doon sa N gene mo, magpo-proceed na ngayon sa extending stage. And in your extending stage, doon na mag-a-act yung DNA polymerase mo. 'Di ba? Remember, yung DNA polymerase mo, siya yung responsible for the addition of new nucleotide base in your growing DNA strand. So, in the extending stage, meron ka ditong DNA polymerase, tapos i-extend yan na yung nucleotide bases nung N gene mo ngayon, which is in your SARS-CoV-2 sa COVID-19 testing. So, ayun. So, itong PCR, i-discuss natin to ng sobrang detailed sa laboratory natin para malaman nyo yung kung paano talaga ginagawa yung PCR or yung swab test, yung PCR test. So, ayun. And yung laboratory natin, April or May pa ata, sabi ni Sir Ethan. So, ayun. And ito yung parang mechanism behind PCR. Bakit natin sinabing amplify? Na-amplify kasi paulit-ulit siya ng cycle. So, itong tatlong cycles na to, inuulit siya ng inuulit, ulit-ulit yan. Ulit-ulit yung tatlong cycles na yan. So, sobrang simple lang niya actually kung iisipin mo. Ulit-ulitin mo lang yung cycles na yun. Therefore, for cycle 1, magkakaroon ka ng dalawa. For cycle 2, magmumultiply, and ito, magmumultiply din. Kasi, each of these DNA strands, ginagawa niyang target or ginagawa niyang template pala. Ginagawa niyang template. So, therefore, kapag paulit-ulit yung cycles mo, paulit-ulit rin ang paggamit mo ng template and mas maraming template, mas marami ka rin na outcome. Okay? And yung PCR mo, actually, nangyayari siya usually yung gano'ng katagal, halos 1 hour. So, halos 1 hour mo lang siya, halos 1 hour ka maghihintay para ma-amplify yung specific gene mo. Ayun. So, yun yung PCR. So, yun. So, daming questions tungkol sa PCR. Big sabihin, interested kayo sa PCR. And ito naman, yung questions naman regarding DNA replication. So, yung enzymes daw. And, PCR ulit dito. Yung sa replication bubble and yung sa replication forks. Replication forks. Silent mutation and PCR. So, here, ano ba yan? So, here, again, ulitin natin sa yung replication forks, dyan nagsa-start yung DNA replication, di ba? And in bacteria, meron ka lang na isang replication bubble. And sa replication bubble mo na yon, meron kang dalawang replication forks. So, bacteria to kasi circular, remember, ang bacteria. Di ba? But, in your eukaryotic DNA, again, your eukaryotic DNA is a strand, di ba? Isa lang siyang mahabang linear na DNA. Sorry, may distraction. So, mahabang linear. Sorry. So, sorry. So, sa bacteria, circular yung DNA natin. So, therefore, kahit isang replication bubble lang at dalawang replication forks, magpo-proceed yan na ma-replicate mo yung entire DNA. But in your eukaryotic genome, linear yung DNA mo and sobrang haba. So therefore, you need different origins of replications and magpo-form sila ng replication bubbles, and these replication bubbles, nangyayari sila ng sabay-sabay actually, or meron silang sari-sariling lugar doon sa length of your DNA, and habang nagpo-proceed yung pag-replicate ng DNA mo, mag-fuse yung replication bubbles mo hanggang sa lumaki, ma-replicate niya to ng ma-replicate, and mag-fuse dito hanggang sa ma-replicate yung buong linear mong eukaryotic DNA. Okay. So, kung may questions kayo, magtaas lang kayo ng kamay. And meron ding nalilito pa doon sa enzymes involved in the replication fork. So, ito, actually, may tinanong rin ako ni Ronnie kanina. Ano raw yung topoisomerase at yung difference niya sa gyrase. So, both your prokaryotic and your eukaryotic organisms, they have this so-called topoisomerase. Okay? And this topoisomerase, this is responsible for the unwinding of your DNA. Why? Because as you open your DNA, you will accumulate torsional stress here. Diba? Naalala niyo yung winding problem. So, habang ino-open mo yung DNA mo, magkakaroon ka ng torsional stress. And actually, hindi automatic yung unwind ng DNA mo. What you use is your topoisomerase. So, yung topoisomerase mo, again, present siya in both eukaryotic and your prokaryotic bacteria. But, your gyrase now is a subclass or a type of topoisomerase only found in your bacteria. So, dun kayo nalilito, di ba? Kung ano yung difference ng topoisomerase and yung gyrase, di ba? Dun nalilito yung karamihan. So, actually, yung gyrase mo, subclass siya ng topoisomerase. Isa siyang type ng topoisomerase, but it is only found in your bacteria. So, therefore, ano yung magandang gawin natin sa topoisomerase? Di ba? Maganda siyang parang target for antibiotics. Kung yung gyrase mo, nahanap lang siya sa bacteria, bakit hindi natin siya gamitin na target for antibiotics, di ba? So, kung wala pa kayong thesis or kung gusto niyo mag-clinical research, pwede niyo yun gawin. So, ayun. So, yun yung difference ng topoisomerase sa gyrase mo. Yung gyrase mo, again, is a subclass or a type of a topoisomerase only found in your bacteria. Okay? So, yung isa pang enzyme dito ay yung helicase. So, yung helicase mo, it unzips your DNA. So, yun yung function niya actually. And merong nagtanong kung pwede yung helicase ba, dito lang siya nag-o-occur or pwede ba siyang mag-occur at different times rin na kunyari kailangan i-unwind yung DNA mo. Yes, your DNA helicase, excuse me, since yung function niya is to unwind your DNA, it can actually occur pa in different parang events in your DNA na kailangan mo to i-unwind. So, kung meron ka ditong mistake sa DNA strand mo and kailangan mo siya i-open, gagamit ka pa rin ng DNA helicase. And yung isa mo pang protein na involved in your replication fork is your single-stranded binding protein. And again, ito yung support mo para hindi magdikit ulit yung DNA strands mo. Diba? Kasi sayang naman yung trabaho ng helicase kung magdidikit lang naman to agad-agad, diba? So, kailangan niya ng single-stranded binding protein. Ayun. So, next. Ito naman. Yung mga tanong pa in Lecture 2, why is the mutation rate of bacteria low since there is proofreading? Is it possible to have errors in DNA replication, DNA polymerase? Halos same lang yung parang idea nila or yung questions nila. And also yung sa ligase and your lagging strand. So, tingnan natin. So, again, bakit mababa yung mutation rate natin. Bakit mababa yung mutation rate sa bacteria? Wait lang. Meron bang nakakaalala bakit mababa yung mutation rate? Okay, so mababa yung mutation rate sa bacteria natin kasi merong proofreading mechanism again yung DNA polymerase natin. So yung DNA polymerase mo, it has an inherent proofreading mechanism. That is why your mutation rate in bacteria is low. And similarly, in your eukaryotes, mababa rin yung mutation rate, di ba? Kasi meron kang proofreading mechanism sa DNA polymerase mo. Halos same lang yung principle. And also, there are other factors pa affecting in the low mutation rates, which we discussed in lecture 3, di ba? Yung DNA repair, DNA damage and repair. So, yung repair mechanisms na rin yun, nag-cause rin siya for the mutation rate to be low. And, ano pa ba yung tanong dito? Yung tanong pa dito, it is possible then to still have errors in your DNA replication kahit na nag-proofread pa rin yung DNA polymerase nyo, right? 'Di ba? Yung sinasabi natin na yung sa translation, synthesis, 'di ba? Kahit na may proofreading mechanism yung DNA mo, tapos meron pa ring errors doon. For example, yung thymine dimers, kahit na may errors doon, nagkaroon pa rin ng DNA or nag-synthesize pa rin ng bagong DNA strand. And also, kahit na hindi ma-proofread ng DNA polymerase mo, yung DNA damages mo or yung mga mutations mo, meron ka pang ibang repair mechanisms na diniscuss natin sa lecture 3. So, yung different repair mechanisms na yun, sila na yung responsible doon sa mutations or damages na hindi nakita ng DNA polymerase mo. And also, the possible consequences when the polymerase inserts a wrong base, ang outcome, again, is mutation. So, kapag meron kang maling base na nalagay, pag merong maling base na nalagay yung DNA polymerase mo, pwede kang magkaroon ng mutations. But then, again, those mutations are prevented kasi meron kang repair mechanism. Hello, same lang din yung questions nila. And, yung ligase naman, tinanong rin dito yung lagging strand and yung ligase. So, ano yung ulit yung connection ng lagging strand and yung ligase. So, in your lagging strand, remember that your DNA is synthesized in segments, right? So, in your lagging strand, your DNA is synthesized in segments. Therefore, you need multiple primers. So, you need multiple primers in your lagging strand. And these multiple primers, once na matapos na yung synthesis mo ng isang DNA segment dito, kailangan sila tanggalin. Diba? Kasi again, your DNA, your primers are made up of RNA. Diba? RNA yung primers mo. So, kailangan mo sila tanggalin. And once na tinanggal mo na yung primers mo, magkakaroon ka actually dito ng nick. Magkakaroon ka ng gaps. And these gaps are sealed by your DNA ligase. So your DNA ligase now is your enzyme which seals the gaps between your DNA segments. Para maalala nyo yung DNA ligase, yung sa name niya actually, DNA ligase, ligand. Ligand meaning, di ba, connection. So, ligand, connection, DNA ligase connects your DNA segment. So, para maalala nyo yung DNA ligase. Enzyme siya to form the connections between your DNA segments in your lagging strand. And again, how does your DNA ligase performs its work? So, again, you have here a nick dito sa part na to. So what happens is that your DNA ligase uses your ATP. And your ATP, again, is the energy molecule in your body. So this ATP is used by your DNA ligase. So bakit? Kasi again, for lahat ng favorable reactions, kailangan mo ng release of energy or kailangan mo gumamit ng energy. So ngayon, 'di ba dito yung break mo. So meron kang 5' end and meron kang 3' end. And again, yung 3' end mo, it contains your hydroxyl group. And this hydroxyl group, it performs a nucleophilic attack in your ATP, dito actually, para isa lang na phosphate group yung matira. So therefore, itong ATP mo, itong adenosine monophosphate mo, magbabind dito sa 5' end. Okay? ATP mo, inattack dito, marirelease yung dalawang phosphate groups. Isa lang yung matitira. Yung isa na yon called your adenosine monophosphate kasi isa lang yung phosphate. And mag-a-attach siya dito sa phosphate group mo sa 5' end. And bakit kailangan yon? Bakit mo kailangan ng phosphate or ng adenosine monophosphate na mag-bind dito sa 5' end? Para merong ma-attack yung hydroxyl group sa 3' end mo. Kasi tingnan mo dito, sa 5' end, wala ka ditong maa-attack. Walang maa-attack dyan yung hydroxyl group mo. So, isipin nyo lang parate na kailangan ng hydroxyl group na mag-attack. Kailangan meron siyang ina-atake. Palaban siya eh. So, kailangan niya parating may aatakihin para magkaroon ng reaction. So, kailangan mo mag-attach dito ng adenosine monophosphate. And since nag-attach ka dito ng adenosine monophosphate, meron nang maa-attack yung hydroxyl group mo sa 3' end. And yun yung adenosine monophosphate dito. So therefore, kapag in-attack niya to, kapag nagkaroon ng nucleophilic attack dito, magkakaroon ulit ng chemical reaction, releasing your adenosine monophosphate. Thus, it will allow this segment here to bind with each other. So, yun yung nangyayari sa DNA ligase. Yun yung specific na chemical reaction. So, meron pa bang nalilito dito? Proceed muna tayo. So, in lecture 3 naman, ito yung mga tanong. So, yung cleft palate daw associated with genetic errors. Ang alam ko sa cleft palate ay actually error siya kapag sa zygote pa lang yung development in developmental biology, sa development of your zygote, kapag mali yung signals sa fetus mo, mali yung signals nung mga cells, magkakaroon ka ng errors sa formation and magkakaroon ka ng cleft palate. And pero pwede na naman to search kung interested kayo sa cleft palate and associated genetic errors. And yung next question niya ay, if substitution mutation din po ba yung case sa deamination of adenine and guanine or specific lang ba sa cytosine yun? And also, if may translation polymerase, sa translation polymerase po, in-ignore niya lang po yung dimer. Nag-add lang po siya ng correct base pair, pero di niya po inaalis yung extra thymine. And yung genes na nagko-code din for DNA polymerase. Ito rin sa translation polymerase, and ito if BRCA1 and BRCA2 lang yung sa may nagko-cause ng ovarian or breast cancer. So, tingnan natin. So, yung unang tanong ay, if substitution mutation din ba yung case ng deamination sa adenine and guanine or specific lang daw ba sa cytosine? So, actually, kasi yung in-example natin, cytosine lang, di ba? Na-deaminate yung cytosine, therefore, nagkaroon ng substitution dito. But actually, since meron ding deamination na nangyayari sa adenine and guanine mo, kapag nagkaroon ka rin ng unnatural base dito in the form of hypoxanthine and xanthine, hindi substitution mutation yung nangyayari actually. So maganda yung tinanong niya para ma-clear din yung mga specifics ng deamination. So here, yung deamination substitution lang nangyayari siya yung case lang kapag na-deaminate yung cytosine mo. Bakit? Kasi yung cytosine mo, yung deaminated form niya ay uracil, 'di ba? And yung uracil, nagbabind siya sa adenine. So magkakaroon ka ng substitution mutation. But if you have a substitution mutation in your adenine and or your guanine, hindi ka magkakaroon ng substitution mutation. Kasi hypoxanthine or xanthine yung masasubstitute. And hindi naman to magbabind in your bases, 'di ba? Wala naman silang counterpart na bases. Yung mangyayari in these two types of deamination in your adenine and guanine ay magkakaroon ka ng deletion. So, more likely deletion mutation yung mangyayari dito. Again, yung in the substitution mutation, nangyayari lang siya kapag cytosine lang yung na-deaminate mo. Kasi, again, yung cytosine mo, yung deaminated cytosine mo, it will become your uracil. Clear ba yun? Okay. So, ito naman. Yung isang tanong naman sa translation synthesis or translation polymerase. So, yung tanong doon, kung mag-a-add lang talaga sa dito ng bases kahit na may error dito. So, yes. Ito yung sa transition polymerase, nagkakaroon tayo ng damage tolerance. Kasi kahit na may damage, yung DNA mo, nagsisynthesize pa rin siya dito ng new DNA strand, right? So, kahit na damage to, most likely, thymine dimer or pyrimidine dimer, mag-add pa rin siya ng right nucleotide bases dito. And dahil nag-add siya dito ng right nucleotide bases, it can now use this newly synthesized strand to correct the other strand. So, since tama naman yung bases na nilagay doon sa isang strand, and kahit na may error yung isang strand, sabihin natin thymine dimers, kahit na alisin mo yung thymine dimers, di ba? Alisin mo yung thymine dimers through excision repair. Mako-correct mo pa rin yung thymine dimers mo kasi tama naman yung nilagay mong bases doon sa kabilang strand. Right? So, yun yung parang connection ng transition synthesis in your DNA repair. So, nagets niyo ba yung sinabi ko? Kapag medyo mabilis ako or di nyo nag-get start, taas lang kayo ng kamay. Okay? So, dito naman tayo sa BRCA1 and BRCA2. So, nagtanong kasi kung actually, kung ano ba yung connection ng BRCA1 and BRCA2 in homologous in DNA repair and homologous recombination. So, i-clear lang natin ulit para clear. So, yung BRCA1 and BRCA2, they are proteins involved in homologous recombination repair. So, what they do is they actually facilitate the homologous recombination repair. So, important yung BRCA1 and BRCA2 mo in your homologous recombination repair. So, kapag merong mutation sa genes involved in BRCA1 and BRCA2, anong mangyayari? 'Di ba? Masisira rin yung protein. 'Di ba? Kapag may mutation sa gene, masisira rin yung protein, may mutated rin yung protein na mapoproduce. And kung mutated yung protein na mapoproduce, anong mangyayari? Hindi nagfa-function yung protein, right? So, kung hindi nagpo-function yung protein mo, and in this case, BRCA1 and BRCA2, hindi nagpo-function itong proteins na to, hindi magkakaroon ng homologous recombination repair. Hindi ma-repair itong damage na to. And ito yung nangyayari mostly in your ovarian and breast cancer, right? But, ovarian and breast cancer is not limited to these types of mutations actually. So, meron ka pang ibang aspects rin ng ovarian and or breast cancer. So, ovarian and breast cancer, actually, meron din siyang link sa Lynch syndrome, meron din siyang spontaneous na lang na nangyayari kung nagkaroon or kung nagkaroon ng impact yung breast mo habang bata ka or ano ba yan? Na kunyari nakatama yung breast mo sa nagkaroon ng trauma yung breast mo, ganun, or nagkaroon ng damage yung breast mo and magma-malfunction yung cells mo doon. So, but in this case, in this specific example, yung specific ng breast cancer natin and ovarian cancer ay yung mutation ng BRCA1 and BRCA2. And again, connected sila sa homologous recombination repair. Next, are disease related to DNA errors always genetic or can be acquired anytime? So itong tanong na to, actually maganda siya. So not all of your DNA errors are always genetic. They can be acquired actually. So these acquired errors are due to environmental factors. So some of it are due to environmental factors such as your UV light, 'di ba? Hindi naman genetic yung UV light damage mo, 'di ba? And sometimes also yung carcinogens mo kapag sobrang kain ka ng mga red meat mo. So, marami yung carcinogen. Or kapag kumakain ka ng tutong na pagkain, actually, mas marami yung carcinogens mo. And yung explanation behind doon is actually your free radicals. So, your free radicals, you get them either from what you eat or from what you put inside your body, and or sometimes these free radicals, they are also made up by your body. So yung gusto ko lang malaman nyo sa free radicals ay para silang mga lumilipad na mga molecules sa body mo or mga lumalangoy-langoy na molecules sa body nyo, tapos naghahanap sila ng stable na buhay. Kaya sila tinawag na free radicals kasi meron doong part sa electrons nila na walang nakabind or hindi stable yung part ng electrons nila. Hindi naman to kailangan alalahanin kung ano lang kayo, kung interested kayo. Basta yung free radicals nyo, para lang silang isipin nyo, mga lumilipad or mga lumalangoy na mga molecules inside your body na naghahanap ng stable na buhay. So, nagbabind sila sa kung ano-anong molecules in your body, and kapag mag-bind sila sa kung ano-anong molecules inside your body, especially your DNA, kapag mahanap nila yung DNA mo and mag-bind sila doon, merong chance na masira yung DNA mo. So, ayun. And number 2, DNA recombination in general. So, discuss natin yung DNA recombination. Itong alleles, actually, they are just the copies of or your homologs of your genes in your chromosome. So, itong term na to, diniscuss nyo na ba to sa cytogenetics, itong alleles? So, para lang ma-refresh kayo, actually, na-mention ko kasi ata tong alleles. So, itong alleles, actually, term lang siya sa homologs sa chromosomes nyo. So, sila lang yung specific parts ng chromosomes nyo na pareho lang naman yung function or pareho yung sequences. So, for example, in your chromosome 1, di ba, nakita nyo, dalawa yung pa-X, di ba? Dalawa. So, paano ko ba ma-illustrate? Anyway, basta yung alleles nyo, parts siya ng chromosomes nyo na halos the same lang yung genetic information. So, these alleles are either from your mom or your dad. So, di ba, nakakakuha ka ng genetic information mo from your mom and or your dad. Or from your mom and your dad. So, yung nakuha mong genetic information mo sa mom and dad mo, meron silang counterpart for each of the genetic or each of the genes. So, isearch na lang ulit tong alleles na to. Pero term lang siya actually na ginagamit for homologs in your chromosomes. And the mechanism, homologous recombination. So, i-discuss ulit natin yung DNA recombination. So, dapat pala hindi ko yung DNA recombination or like hindi ko siya minention sa title masyado kasi nalilito kayo sa recombination. So, actually, DNA recombination, general term siya. DNA recombination is a general term for the mixing of your DNA sequences or the shuffling of your DNA sequences. General term ang DNA recombination actually. And actually, sa laboratory nyo kasi, yung imamatch ko dito sa lecture na to ay yung RFLPs, yung restriction fragment polymorphisms, in which kailangan natin ma-discuss yung DNA recombination. But since nga di tayo magla-laboratory, yung DNA recombination nyo, i-discuss ko siya further in your laboratory class. And yung DNA recombination sa context ng DNA repair ay ganito. So, yung inaral nating DNA recombination ay in the context of DNA repair. So, what happens is that, again, you have your proteins here responsible for the strand exchange. Nagkakaroon ng strand exchange from your damaged DNA and your undamaged DNA template. So, via strand exchange, pwedeng makopy yung portion ng DNA mo na nasira from your undamaged template. So, 'di ba, yung DNA natin, or yung chromosomes natin, it comes in pairs from your mom and your dad, or basically it comes in pairs. So halos same lang rin yung sequences nila dito. And so kapag nagkaroon ka ng double strand break dito, pwede mong gamitin tong isang DNA strand mo dito para i-copy yung part na nagkaroon ka ng double strand break. So what happens is that first, yung nuclease mo, it digests the ends of the broken strand. So nucleus mo, it digests the portions of your double strand breaks. And then saka magkakaroon ng strand exchange. So in strand exchange, itong end na to, bigla siyang papasok doon sa loob ng DNA mo na gagamitin mong template na hindi sira. Papasok siya doon sa loob and then mag-synthesize siya ng tamang nucleotide bases. So therefore, kapag na-synthesize mo itong tamang nucleotide bases dito, pwede mo na itong magamit to synthesize this itong nasa taas. So, yun lang naman basically yung makikita mo in your homologous recombination repair. So, yung important step dito ay yung strand exchange. Yung strand exchange. Kasi yung sa strand exchange, basically, papasok dito yung strand mo and then magka-copy siya nung bases na tama and then makakorek niya na yung portion of your DNA na nagkaroon ng break. Ayun. So, again, to finish off yung homologous recombination mo, kailangan mo ng DNA ligase which connects your strand, your broken, or your gaps in your DNA. Ito pa, question. Sa MSI testing naman, and what do you mean by amplify in microsatellite instability testing? So, in MSI, again, meron tayong microsatellite, or in your HNPCC, in your hereditary non-polyposis colon cancer, meron tayong microsatellite instability. And again, yung microsatellites nyo, sila yung portions of your DNA na paulit-ulit yung sequences. So, for example, dito, GCA, CA, 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 CA. So, itong CA, CA na to, sila yung microsatellites mo. And these microsatellites, in the case of your HNPCC or your hereditary non-polyposis colon cancer, meron daw instability. Bakit? Kasi, remember, yung sa HNPCC mo, yung MMR genes mo, yung mismatch repair genes mo ay dysfunctional. Diba? So, therefore, kung dysfunctional yung MMR genes mo, yung mismatch repair genes mo, hindi nare-repair ng maayos yung mga mali sa microsatellites mo. So, therefore, kunyari ito, meron ka ditong mali, nag-bind sila dito, nagkaroon ka dito ng binding, hindi to na-repair. Therefore, kapag kinopy to, itong strand na to, hindi to makakopy, ang mangyayari, magkakaroon ka ng variable sizes. Magkakaroon ka ng variable sizes in your resulting DNA strand, di ba? Nagigets niyo ba yung sinasabi ko? Ayun. So, since meron kang variable sizes in your DNA strands in your microsatellite, nag-vary dito, di ba? Ito mas mahaba. Ito yung correct. Ito mas maikli na siya. Pwede mo siyang gamitin to diagnose your HNPCC. So, if you have HNPCC, you have this so-called MSI high or microsatellite instability high. So, in microsatellite instability high yung instability ng microsatellites mo. Therefore, maraming ganto. Maraming instability in your microsatellites. Therefore, mas marami yung nagva-vary in sizes. So, what you can do is actually you get a tumor tissue and a normal tissue and you use them as a sample to amplify these microsatellites. And as you will see, these microsatellites, when you amplify them through PCR, hindi sila magtutugma because again, in your microsatellite instability high, mataas yung instability ng microsatellites mo. Therefore, hindi rin siya same doon sa stable ng microsatellites na kung na makikita sa normal tissue mo. So, ayun. So, if you use PCR, ito yung makikita mo. So, hindi sila magtutugma. So, ano yung ibig sabihin ng amplify sa microsatellite instability? So, what you actually mean by amplify is yung sa PCR mo. Yung gusto mo i-amplify, or di ba sa PCR mo, again, remember, we amplify a specific part of the gene. Remember nyo, sa PCR, we amplify a specific part of the gene. So, yung gusto mong i-target na part ng gene mo ay itong microsatellites mo. And what you do is you amplify this part of your gene or this microsatellites. What you do is you amplify your microsatellites. So, when you amplify your microsatellites, you will detect now how yung microsatellites mo different in your tumor and in your normal cells. So, ayun. So, ito lang naman, ibig sabihin ng MSS ay stable. Ayun. May question pa ba doon? So, lecture 4 muna. So, translation, elongation process. So, itong part na to kasi medyo sabog-sabog ako nung diniscuss ko to doon sa L1 kasi ang daming distractions. Yung aso ko umiiyak, yung pamangkin ko umiiyak. So, hindi nila naget ng maayos to. Ang daming kaganapan nung araw na yon. Pero, discuss ko pa rin sa inyo. So, translation elongation process. So, in translation elongation process, what happens is that you have your growing polypeptide chain, right? So, meron kang 4 steps actually. Yung first step mo ay yung tRNA binding. So, first, your tRNA binds to the codons here in your mRNA at the A site of your ribosome. So, magbabind yung tRNA mo dito first. And kapag tama, kapag matching yung anticodons mo present in your tRNA and yung codons mo in your mRNA, magpo-proceed na magbind, magkaroon ng peptide bond formation dito sa polypeptide chain mo. And yun yung step 2. And step 3 is that large subunit translocates in this direction para ma-eject itong tRNA mo na serve niya na yung purpose niya. And lastly, ano yun? Ito pala. Small subunit translocation. Actually, same lang rin naman yung kung bakit magta-translocate itong large and small subunit para ma-eject itong tRNA mo dito na na-serve na yung purpose niya. And mag-uulit na yung cycle. So remember again that your ribosome has 3 sites, T site, T site, and A site. And in your A site, doon unang nagbabind yung tRNA mo. Sa P site mo naman, doon nagkakaroon ng polymerization or growth of your polypeptide chain. This is where your peptide bonds happen or where your amino acids connect. And in your E site, doon nag-exit yung tRNA mo. Dito naman tayo sa curious question. So, sa lecture 1, how does the DNA control the function of a cell? So, DNA is your hereditary information, di ba? It contains all of your hereditary information and your genetic information. So, DNA, it is the most glorified molecule. I use the word most glorified. Well, yung DNA mo, siya yung pinaka-glorified molecule mo and siya yung pinaka-sikat na molecule mo kasi siya yung nagko-control actually ng life mo. And siya yung nagko-control ng function ng cell mo. So, how? Because, again, your DNA contains your hereditary information. And kapag ginamit mo yung hereditary information na yun yung nagbibigay ng different characteristics or traits mo as an organism. And also, your DNA is your template for the production of your proteins. And your proteins, sila yung mostly yung workers ng cells mo. Your proteins, they catalyze all of your cells function. So, important ang DNA mo kasi siya yung template, major template ng lahat ng proteins sa katawan mo and also lahat ng RNA sa katawan mo. So, kaya siya yung nagko-control ng function ng cell. Next, establishing nucleic acid. Mas na yung tinatanong niya dito kung alin daw yung first molecule to exist in the formation of life. So there are different theories actually, but yung nakalagay doon sa libro natin na Albert, yung dinidiscuss sa Albert is the RNA, yung pinakaunang molecule that exists in the formation of life. So why? So yung evidence natin doon ay yung ribosomes natin. Why? Because your ribosomes are made up of RNA, diba? And your ribosomes now, they are responsible for the synthesis of proteins. Diba? So kung walang RNA, wala kang ribosomes, wala ka ring synthesis ng proteins mo. And also, bakit parang mas nauna yung RNA sa DNA mo? Kasi halos essentially, the same lang naman yung function ng RNA mo at DNA mo. What do I mean by that? RNA and DNA, they both carry genetic information. Diba? Yung RNA mo and yung DNA mo, they both carry genetic information. Pero, mas stable yung DNA mo. So, parang sinasabi lang doon na RNA yung pinaka-nauna mong molecule and then nagkaroon ka ng evolution and na-found out ng cells mo na mas stable na gamitin na double-stranded DNA yung gamitang pang-store ng hereditary information. Diba? So, basically, RNA yung parang pinaka-naunang molecule na nag-form ng life. So, nag-gets niyo ba yung sinasabi ko? Ayun. So, in the part of genetic mutation, are GMOs, especially plant crops, considered as beneficial or it has a major effect in the human body too? So, sobrang interesting itong question na to. So, interested siya sa GMOs or genetically modified organisms. So, sa tingin niyo ba, harmful ang GMOs? Wait, ang tagal ko lang kasi nagsasalita. Pwede marinig ko naman boses niyo. Anong opinion niyo sa GMOs? Harmful ba ang GMOs or hindi naman? Sa tingin nyo?
Siguro po, ma'am, pag-regulated yung pagsagawa nung pag-engineer nung genes, okay lang po.
Tama. So, actually, okay lang ang GMOs. So, ano yung pinaka-specific example natin for GMOs? Yung corn natin, yung BT corn. So, in your BT corn, yung ginawa sa BT corn, actually, nag-inject or nag-incorporate sa genome ng corn ng isang parang, anong tawag doon? Insecticide or parang bacterial gene na nape-prevent niya yung growth or napapatay niya yung mga parasites sa corn. So, in your BT corn, physically, yung corn mo kasi wala silang inherent or wala silang tunay na mechanism para mapatay yung mga parasites mo. So sa BT corn mo, yung ginawa ng scientists mo, nag-incorporate sila doon sa BT corn, genetically modified nila yung BT corn para maglagay ng parang gene na papatay doon sa insect mo or sa pest mo na kumakain sa corn mo. So, yung tanong doon, paano kung kainin ng tao yung corn, 'di ba? Kung merong parang gene na papatay doon sa insect mo, yung nasa BT corn, anong mangyayari sa tao kapag kinain yung corn na yon? So actually, hindi tayo maapektuhan. Bakit? Kasi yung gene na nilagay doon sa corn mo, specific lang siya para pumatay ng insects. Hindi siya specific para pumatay ng tao. So in that way, mas marami yung yield ng corn ngayon ng farmers natin, and mape-prevent yung pests na kainin yung corn, and also hindi rin tayo ma-affect. So, yun. So, kung interested pa kayo sa GMOs, pwede kayo magbasa tungkol sa GMOs. Pero, sobrang interesting actually ng GMOs, lalo na sa rice, actually. Or yung ano rin, yung, kung ano yung mga pagkain natin ngayon. So, ayun. Next. So, sa lecture 2 naman, ito yung curious question. So, do helicases run on the DNA only once, or are there chances that helicases might have rerun if there are strands that annulled after they separated the helicase? So, sinagot na natin ito kanina. Pwede mag-rerun yung helicase. Where did DNTPs originate? Is there a particular process that produces DNTPs? So, actually, question to in your chemistry. So, in DNTPs mo, actually, they are floating inside your cell. So, the way they are formed, meron kang chemical processes. But then, hindi naman natin kailangan malaman yung specifics on how they originate. But if you are interested in the origination of your DNTPs, you can actually read on biochemistry tungkol sa DNTPs. And actually, yung DNTPs mo, they are kind of nucleotides. So there are different nucleotides inside your body, such as your ATP and the nucleotides that you use in your DNA. So, ayan. And what will happen to us if we skip the step in DNA replication? Is that possible to happen? If yes, how much is the incidence rate of that happening? Merong possibility na magkaroon ka ng skip or mag-skip ka ng step sa DNA replication. So, yung mga gano'n, nangyayari lang siya sa mga cells na mayroong mutation. So, possible siya mangyari, pero nape-prevent siya because mayroong repair mechanisms yung DNA mo. So, kahit na mayroong skip sa steps and magpo-produce siya ng mutations, meron kang repair mechanisms in your DNA. So, how to identify old DNA strand from new strand? Itong question na to actually, maganda siya. Kasi ito yung question na hindi ko inilagay sa lecture ko, pero hindi ko akalain na may magtatanong nito. Parang, di ba, merong paano ma-identify yung old DNA strand sa new DNA strand. So actually, yung mechanism doon behind is yung methylation. So you will see, isabay ko na lang tuloy siya sa control of gene expression. You will see that your new DNA strands, they are unmethylated, but your old DNA strands, they are methylated. So yung methylations na yun, they are responsible for the control of your gene expression. So your new DNA strands again are unmethylated, ibig sabihin walang methylation, but then your old DNA strands has methylation. And those specific methylations, they have a function in your control of gene expression. So maganda tong tanong na to actually. Di ba mabilis ang pag-replicate? Hello, same lang yung question sila about the speed of the replication. But then, you cannot actually specify the specific speed of DNA replication kasi hindi din siya ganun ka observe pa. Hindi pa siya ganun ka-observe. So, if you want to experiment on DNA replication, you can ask this as a thesis statement. Pero, hindi siya ganun pa ka-observe. And also, meron ring differences in DNA replication because iba-iba rin tayong organisms and also as we age, nag-iiba-iba rin yung mechanisms or yung cell functions natin. So, does the length of the person telomeres increases the risk of him developing autoimmune disease? Maganda rin itong question. So, yung telomere length mo actually involved siya in aging, right? So, as you age, your telomere length, it shortens. And you actually increase the development not just by autoimmune diseases, but also some kinds of diseases which may affect your DNA. So, yung telomere length mo, so, di ba, napapansin nyo, as you age, kapag tumatanda ka, mas marami yung nagiging sakit mo. Because, again, nagwi-weaken yung immune system mo. And meron rin siyang relationship sa telomere length mo in your DNA replication. So, ito naman yung time sa primate. And again, meron kang variations in the time intervals. And this is not actually that much observed in DNA replication. So, may nagtanong pa na in PCR, does telomere also shorten? No, actually, because in your PCR, what you actually use as a sample is or parang yung in-extract mo na DNA mo. Di ba nag-DNA extraction tayo? So, yung na-extract nyo na DNA doon, pwede mo siyang gamitin sample in your PCR. And sa PCR mo, specific target genes lang yung ginagamit mo. And hindi mo kailangan essentially yung telomeres mo. So, ayun. So, hindi mo kailangan yung telomeres mo sa PCR mo because, again, target DNA sequences lang yung kailangan mo sa PCR mo. Can DNA be done outside the human cell using a stem cell transplant? So, maganda rin tong question. Curious siya sa stem cell. So, your stem cells actually are your undeveloped. Yung undifferentiated cells. So, di ba merong time na nauso yung stem cell therapy. So, what you use is your undifferentiated cells to cure specific diseases. So, actually, itong stem cell therapy na to, medyo complicated pa yung process niya because kahit na pluripotent cells yung gagamitin mo, kapag hindi tamang of the cells or conditions yung ginamit mo, pwedeng tumubo siya ng hindi yung target cells mo. So, ano bang sinasabi ko? So, for example, naglagay ka ng stem cell sa mata mo. So, yung yung inaasahan mong tutubo na stem cell sa mata mo ay mag-differentiate into cells na magiging mata. But, if hindi tama yung pag-administer mo sa cells mo na yon sa mata mo, pwedeng maging buto yung mga cells na tutubo sa mata mo. So, kapag hindi tama yung pag-administer mo ng stem cells mo, pwedeng magkamali pa yung yung magkamali pa ng tutubong stem cells doon sa parte ng katawan mo. So, complicated process actually ang stem cell transplant. And yung parang pinaka-example ng stem cell transplant sa Pilipinas ay yung eye transplant sa St. Luke. So, kapag gusto niyo magpa-stem cell transplant sa mata, pwede kayo pumunta ng St. Luke's Medical Center. Oh, ito pa. Why is it that the presence of the release of energy in a reaction is considered an ideal one? So, ito, isa siyang chemistry question. So, in your chemistry class, again, if you remember, you use energy to Wait. So in your chemistry class, what you do is ano mangyayari? So in your chemistry class, yung release of energy mo, is tinatawag siyang again ideal kasi again your energy is not created nor destroyed. So yung energy mo magigilang siyang ibang form ng energy. And ang ideal reaction mo, nagkakaroon ka ng release in energy. And ayun, so yun yung ideal reaction. Lecture 3. Sorry, napapagod na ako. 3:33. I'm kind of confused which parts of the lesson shows oxidative damage. Wait lang, inom lang ako tubig, guys. Bago tayo mag-proceed, sorry guys, bago tayo mag-proceed, meron pa ba kayong question so far? Meron ba pa kayong parts na nalito kayo from lecture 1 to 4? Tapos pwede natin pag-usapan ngayon habang nandito pa tayo. If wala pa naman so far, so isip lang kayo. Okay lang yan. So if wala pa naman so far, tanungin nyo lang sa duration ng discussion natin ngayon para masagot natin and para hindi kayo malito pagdating na ng exams natin. So take nyo tong chance na to para masagot yung mga katanungang gumugulo sa isip mo. So proceed muna tayo. Ayan. So, lecture 3 na. So, yung isang tanong, I'm kind of confused which part of the lesson. So, kasalanan ko rin kasi hindi ko masyado na identify kung aling part sa lecture 3 yung may oxidative damage. So, sa lecture 3, yung pinakita ko lang, di ba, yung hydrolytic attack, yung sa deamination and depurination, and also yung methylation din sa guanine nyo. Pero yung oxidative damage, hindi ko siya masyado na anong UV radiation nyo. So, yung UV radiation nyo, isa siyang form ng oxidative damage. Yung UV radiation, what it does is, wait lang, humina yung internet. Naririnig niyo pa ba ako? Humina yung internet ko.
Nag-choppy.
Hello? Choppy, oh no. Naririnig niyo na ba ako ngayon?
Okay na.
Okay.
Opo.
Okay na.
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Apologize lang ako ng madali kasi medyo sabog-sabog ako ngayon. Pero push natin to. So, okay. So, dito na tayo sa oxidative damage. So, may nagtanong kasi kung aling part daw sa lecture 3 yung merong oxidative damage kasi hindi ko pinakita and kasalanan ko rin yun sa part ko kasi di ko rin siya masyado na-explain ng maayos. And mabuti, merong nagtanong ng oxidative damage. And yung oxidative damage kasi, in the form siya nung UV radiation. And yung oxidative damage mo din, in the form siya of your free radicals or yung reactive oxygen species mo na minention ko kanina. And hindi na naman kailangan alalahanin yung ROS or yung reactive oxygen species nyo. But yung information lang doon is that molecules in your body called your free radicals, again, nagsiswim-swim sila sa loob ng cells mo, and then naghahanap sila ng stability sa buhay. Tapos minsan nagbabind sila sa DNA mo through oxidative reactions. Therefore, magkakaroon ka ng oxidative damage sa DNA mo. So, yun yung oxidative damage in your DNA. And yung diniscuss natin again in your DNA repair is in the form of your UV radiation. Next. So, UV rays causes DNA damage. So, is it true that by mere exposure to the sun or any UV sterilization equipment can cause cancer? Is the skin tissue the most damaged cells in the body? So, actually, yung UV rays mo, rampant siya na rampant yung damage mo in your patients with xeroderma pigmentosum. So, why? Because, again, in xeroderma pigmentosum, wala kang excision repair. So, hindi na-repair yung UV radiation damage mo. So, ikaw rin, as a healthy, normal person, di ba, pag naririnig nyo na wag masyado lumabas sa araw kasi pwede kang magkaroon ng burns or ayun, wag masyado lumabas sa araw kasi or ng skin cancer kasi nga yung UV radiation mo, it causes DNA damage. And since healthy ka na person, yung DNA damage mo na yun, nare-repair naman. So kahit na lumabas ka sa araw and healthy ka naman na person, kahit na magkaroon yung damage yung DNA mo through UV radiation, maayos pa rin yun. And also, yung UV sterilization equipment, kaya tayo hindi lapit doon sa biosafety cabinet natin na naka-open yung UV light kasi nga yung UV light again ay nagko-cause siya ng damage sa DNA mo. And not just your skin tissue but is damaged, but mostly yung skin tissue mo yung na-damage inside your or na-damage na cells in your body, but sometimes pwede rin ma-damage yung other types of tissues mo inside your body. For example, yung mata mo, kung masyado kang nakatitig sa araw or masyado kang na-expose sa UV radiation, pwede rin ma-damage yung cells mo doon. And also, in the case of xeroderma pigmentosum, napanood nyo na ba yung Midnight Sun? Meron kasing nagpapanood sa akin noon na student, and pinanood ko yung Midnight Sun actually. So, sa Midnight Sun, yung nakita doon ay meron rin neural damage or meron rin neurodegeneration na nangyayari. Dahil din yun, effect rin din yun ng dysfunction sa repair mo. So, number 2, in xeroderma pigmentosum, where excision repair or DNA polymerase is dysfunctional. So, does this mean patients with this disease are not only vulnerable to skin cancer, but also other forms of cancer or mutations? Tama to, because again, hindi lang rin yung hindi lang rin skin cancer rin yung pwedeng makos rin ng damage in your excision repair. Pwede rin magkaroon ka ng other types of diseases katulad ng neurodegeneration dahil, again, dysfunctional yung excision repair mo and yung DNA polymerase translation mo. So, ayun. In HNPC, increased risk of developing cancer. Why is it only colon cause of mutation? So, tinanong niya dito, sa hereditary non-polyposis colon cancer, bakit daw sa colon cancer lang daw? Bakit daw colon cancer lang daw yung affected? Parang mismatch repair system rin, mismatch repair system yung mutation mo, or pwede rin ba maging source yung eating food or kakain ka ng mga carcinogenic food. So, in HNPCC, hereditary siya na disease, hereditary colon cancer siya. So, basically, sa HNPCC mo, since hereditary non-polyposis colon cancer siya, namamana mo siya. So, yung HNPCC mo, namamana mo siya. So, dahil namamana mo siya, meron kang higher risk na magkaroon ka ng colon cancer. So, And the mutations in your mismatch repair, actually, hereditary yun. But, yung other forms of colon cancer, yung sinabi niya dito, pwede rin daw ba yun ma-acquire through eating carcinogenic foods? Pwede rin. So, yung mga types of mutations na yun are called your acquired mutation. So, pwede ka rin magkaroon ng colon cancer kung puro carcinogenic food yung kinakain mo. And, ayun. Related din to sa formation of free radicals. Where are the enzymes needed for repairs being produced? So, itong tanong na to, actually, maganda to tanong na to. So, kung i-connect nyo yung lahat ng lectures natin, di ba, kailangan ng enzymes for repair, kailangan ng enzymes for DNA replication, kailangan ng enzymes sa halos lahat ng function in your body. So, itong enzymes na to are basically proteins, right? And these enzymes are actually produced from your DNA. So, yung DNA mo, merong genes doon na nagko-code for these enzymes. So, kahit na enzymes sila needed for repair or enzymes sila needed for replication, proteins pa rin sila. So, therefore, these proteins or these enzymes are produced via your transcription and your translation din. So, remember, itong enzymes mo, again, are proteins, are just proteins. So, therefore, produced pa rin sila through transcription and translation. And yung kinakopy mo doon ay yung genetic or yung template mo doon ay yung genetic information mo na nasa DNA mo. Next, what kind of DNA damage will no longer be repaired or aided by DNA processes? And same lang, I just have a curious question if there are instances that DNA cannot be repaired on its own, and by having the knowledge of the mechanism of DNA repair, can it be used as a basis in order to treat or somehow prevent diseases? In what way? So, meron actually na DNA damages na hindi na rin kayang i-repair ng DNA mo. And those DNA damages, they arise because either sobrang tanda mo na, or meron kang mutation sa DNA repair mechanisms mo. So, dahil meron kang DNA damage na hindi na nare-repair, this will give rise to certain kinds of diseases such as cancer. So, di ba? Yung cancer natin na example ay yung breast cancer natin. Dahil nag-accumulate yung damage na hindi na-repair ng homologous recombination in your breast and or ovarian cancer, nagkakaroon ka ng accumulation of this DNA damage and they give rise to your cancer. And also, this is a great question because you can actually use the repair mechanisms by having the knowledge of the repair mechanisms. You can use them to make certain treatments to cure these types of cancer. So, pwede kang mag-develop ng clinical research out of your MolBio knowledge. Ayun. And itong question na to actually the same lang dito. So, ayun nga, sabi na natin na when you get old, your telomeres, they shorten. And also, when you get old, your cell processes, they also mas hindi na sila functional. So, or less effective na sila. Because when you get old, your cells, they undergo through senescence or through apoptosis. So most of your cells will undergo senescence and most of them will undergo apoptosis because your telomeres, they shorten. So kapag lahat na ng cells sa katawan mo, yung telomeres nila sobrang ikli na, hindi na rin nila kaya mag-DNA replicate. So kapag di na kaya mag-replicate ng DNA mo, mauubos na rin yung cells mo sa body mo. So, ito naman, questions in xeroderma pigmentosum. So, actually, in xeroderma pigmentosum, yung suit na from NASA, di ko lang sure rin kung free yung suit na yun, pero most likely, oo, kasi NASA to. Di ko rin sure kung free yung suit na yun, pero search nyo na lang. And kapag na-expose yung tao sa sunlight, yung taong may mga xeroderma pigmentosum sa sunlight, these two are correct. So, pwede siya maging burns or skin cancer. So, syempre, yung unang mangyayari, magkakaroon ka ng burns, pero it will eventually lead to skin cancer. So, kailangan maging careful yung mga patients with xeroderma pigmentosum. And yung pyrimidine dimers, again, sila yung main cause ng xeroderma pigmentosum kasi yung UV radiation mo, they cause pyrimidine dimers. And these pyrimidine dimers are not repaired in your patients with xeroderma pigmentosum, thus they accumulate. So, if they accumulate at hindi na-repair ng katawan mo itong pyrimidine dimers mo, magkakaroon ka ngayon ng xeroderma pigmentosum or skin cancer. And ito rin, important to question na to. Will they know once the child develops symptoms or could they diagnose it by some tests even before birth? Actually, ito yung merong tinatawag na genetic counseling. So, ikaw, kung mag-aasawa ka na and gusto mo malaman kung magkakaroon ng defect yung anak mo, pwede kayo magpa-genetic counseling. So, in genetic counseling, tinitingnan ng geneticist if yung anak mo, pwedeng yung characteristics mo and yung characteristics ng asawa mo, titingnan ng geneticist and titingnan niya if yung anak nyo magkakaroon ng certain diseases. So, pwede ka magpa-genetic counseling and malalaman mo kung magkakaroon ba ng sakit yung anak mo such as xeroderma pigmentosum. So, this question, if nag-fail yung proofreading kahit sa isang nucleotide, may kakibat ba na disease? Not necessarily. If that nucleotide is situated in an important part of your DNA sequence, then therefore, magkakaroon ka ng sakit. But if that nucleotide sequence ay hindi naman situated in an important sequence of your DNA, such as yung sa codons nyo, remember nyo, di ba merong tatlong, sa genetic code nyo, merong tatlong nucleotide sequences or meron kang tatlong nucleotide letters. So, yung third letter doon actually is your wobble pairing. Because yung wobble pairing mo, siya yung pinaka-lax. Siya yung parang hindi ganun ka-significant in the translation of your proteins from your RNA. So, kahit na actually magkaroon ka ng mutation doon sa third base pair mo, sa codons mo, hindi ganun ka-grave yung mutation mo. Okay? Kasi, actually, if you want to study further translation and transcription mo, yung amino acids mo actually, halos same lang yung, merong amino acids na halos same lang rin yung function nila and yung structure nila na mabibigay doon sa protein mo. So, kahit na magbago yung third base pair mo and iba yung protein or iba yung amino acid na makode, yung amino acid na yon halos same lang rin ng function dun sa isang amino acid na pinalitan niya. And ayun. So, kung gusto niyo lang naman aralin yung specifics pa ng codons and amino acid. So, ayun. So, again, dito, kahit isang nucleotide ay may kakibat na disease, not necessarily because if that nucleotide sequence na isa na yun ay hindi naman doon sa necessary sequence of your DNA, hindi ka naman magkakaroon ng disease. Is there a way when an already duplicated error-containing DNA strand still be corrected? There is. So, ito rin yung tinatawag or yung ginagawa natin sa gene therapy. So, lecture 4. Lapit na tayo. Meron ba kayong question so far? Nasagot ko lang rin yung questions niya actually. Ito ang sagot dito, not necessarily because marami kang mRNA sa katawan mo and therefore, kapag marami kang mRNA, maraming gagamiting template yung translation mo and hindi necessarily mag-lead siya sa disease. Where do the splice introns go? They are they are recycled inside your cells. So, yung introns mo, nare-recycle sila inside your cells. So, puro to tungkol sa CF, sa cystic fibrosis. So, actually, yung lung transplant mo, pwede siyang makakure ng cystic fibrosis mo. But yung alam ko, meron lang rin na certain amount of time para mabuhay yung mga taong nagkaroon ng lung transplant. And hindi nakakahawa ang cystic fibrosis because it is a genetic disease. Hindi siya nakakahawa. Ang delikado sa cystic fibrosis ay kapag yung taong may cystic fibrosis ay nahawaan mo ng isang pathogenic bacteria. So yung main bacteria in cystic fibrosis ay yung Pseudomonas aeruginosa, right? But then other types of bacteria such as yung Bifidobacterium mo, yung napanood nyo sa 5 feet apart, isa rin siyang type of bacteria rin na pwedeng occur in patients with cystic fibrosis. Pero hindi nakakahawa ang cystic fibrosis again because it is a genetic disease. Why adenovirus cannot be killed by our innate or adaptive immune system? Maganda tong question na to, and this involves your your knowledge in immuno. So, yung virus mo, meron siyang spike proteins, and yung spike proteins mo na yun, pwede mo yun i-design to be able to para hindi siya tawaging foreign material inside your body. So, yung spike proteins mo in your adenovirus, actually, yun yung ine-edit para maging siyang familiar material inside your body. So, in proteasomes applicable only to cancer cells. Pwede mo rin gamitin yung proteasome inhibitors din sa ibang types of diseases. And, ayun. So, maganda rin tong questions na to. Ayun lang. So, meron ba kayong tanong? So, parang, ko lang siya, speed run. Meron ba kayong tanong so far pa sa iba pang parts ng lectures natin? Bago tayo mag-end. I-take nyo na yung chance na to. So, kung wala namang tanong, good luck sa exam nyo next week. And ayun lang. Thank you for listening to me. Goodbye, guys. Kunti lang tayo. Goodbye.
Thank you po.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank you
po.
po. Happy birthday, Lloyd.
Thank you, ma'am.